Broadcasting from a galaxy not so far away, this is Inalienable Rights, the podcast that will take you on a journey across continents from North America to Africa to the Caribbean and back again. The Stewart family will share their stories and all they've learned about life, faith, and the pursuit of medicine.
Welcome to the Inalienable Rights podcast. I'm Justin.
And I'm Alyssa.
And thank you for joining us as we talk about our journey of life, faith, and the pursuit of medicine. Thanks for coming back. For those of you who have listened up until now,
Yes.
we have a pretty special one today. It's a little bit different than normal. What even is this thing? Oh yeah, it's a podcast.
Okay, so here's what we thought. We did have somebody, I did put a question box, if you saw on Instagram, I did put a question box, and on Instagram we are at Inalienable Rights Podcast. Just in case you're not following us, go give us a follow. I put a question box asking like comments or anything, or if there's something you want us to cover. And one of the things that was suggested was to give our best marriage tip. So we kind of took that as kind of the segue, I guess, into this episode. So
This is the marriage episode.
I'm sure we'll do another
We
one.
recently celebrated our
time.
12th wedding anniversary.
Listen, I did say, I think in like the first episode that it was our 13th. Guys, I'm sorry. Like it was definitely our 12th.
We've lost some years.
I don't know what I was
Somehow
thinking.
we gained one. I don't
Apparently
know.
a lot on my mind. So this episode is going to be a bit of a different one. We're not probably going to talk too much about medical school, although if it comes up, it comes up. But we wanted to talk, we wanted to share a little bit of background too. I know Justin shared his journey to medical school in the prior few episodes. So you maybe got a little bit of look into that part, but we didn't really talk too much about us and our backgrounds
that I'm
or
not
anything.
the only one who's on this podcast. So apparently some people might want to know.
I don't think
more
anyone
about
really
some
wants to know
other
that much about me, but sometimes it helps to have context. And you know, if you don't know us, maybe it can help you get to know us a little bit better.
So where did it all begin?
I guess with that, it's like where do we start? So just to kind of give some background on us, on me. I'll give background on me. I'll let him speak for himself.
Since when?
So funny. So yeah, I grew up in Canada. So I'm Canadian, and I'm proud of that, although I have spent the last 12 years not in Canada. Actually, I had to think about that. But yeah, no, it was pretty much since we got married. So I do feel somewhat Americanized by now, but I am still Canadian by birth. That's where I grew up. So I grew up in a big family. I have 4 brothers and 4 sisters. So there's a lot of us, which that has its own share of drama. I don't know if that's the right word. Drama is a good word. But the great thing about it was, you know, there's always someone around to do something with. We played a lot of board games, did a lot of fun things growing up. And so I think like...
Because the Amish don't have electricity, so...
We were not Amish. But we...
played a lot of board games.
We a lot, and even to this day, a lot of us, you know, are each other's best friends.
Cooking over the fire.
So no, we're not Amish. But the funny thing is, growing up, because we had a big family, that was very weird. And also we homeschooled, so it was like people always asked us if we were Catholic or Mennonite. And we are neither one of those. We were neither one of those, and we still are not. So just thought I'd put that in there.
But a very conservative religious background.
Yeah, very
nonetheless.
conservative Christian background. I'd say even ultra conservative, if I could go that far.
Conservative Pentecostal, if those two can be married together there, that's what it was.
Turns out they can.
They can.
Okay, I keep feeling like I have to pull the mic away from my phone because I don't want you guys to hear like me drinking my coffee because that's weird. So if I'm
Do you
pulling it
drink
away,
coffee
that's
from
why.
your phone?
No.
So, while she's drinking her coffee, I grew up in a very different sort of atmosphere. There were only 3 of us, but yet there's a connection, and this is how we ended up meeting, was we actually grew up in the same church atmosphere. It was like, for lack of a better word, a denomination. We were in the same denomination, but I grew up in Western New York, south of Buffalo, about an hour and a half or so. And the story goes that a certain pastor came to Jamestown, New York, and started a church. And my parents got involved with that church, and we built a relationship with that pastor. And then he moved to Canada, and he started another church, actually the same name even, started another church in Canada. And Alyssa's family ended up joining that church. But we kept in contact with that pastor, so we would go up and like visit. Even as a teenager, as a kid, we went up and spent time in Canada. So our families actually met each other when we were still pretty young. Alyssa's a little bit younger than I am, but
a lot.
Anyway.
It feels like a lot sometimes.
Well, we actually, our family, my siblings, we were not all that close, actually. We're closer now as adults than we ever were before, but we didn't play a lot of board games. I love my brother. He's a great guy, but I think we got in fights and he punched me in the face and different kind of things.
We might cut this.
But back in the day, so we didn't have a super close family. So she tells me all the stories about growing up and how they loved each other and they still talk to each other. She'll send voice notes to her sister 8,000 of them a day, and I'm lucky to talk to my brother 3 times a year. It's just so very different. But
yeah, it is definitely different, and we definitely had the big family homeschool vibes going, so there was that too.
But we also were homeschooled.
But you didn't homeschool the whole time.
But we didn't homeschool the whole time.
I don't know if that made a difference or not.
I had the opportunity, if that's the right word. I was homeschooled, I went to the public school, I went to the Christian school, and then I also graduated from the public school. So I had
the funny thing,
a taste of it all.
You did. And the funny thing is that, I always said that I was not going to homeschool because, I don't know, I just feel like I never want to do my kids a disservice, and homeschooling, I don't want to say it can be a disservice, but I think it can sometimes if you're not, on top of things and trying to find opportunities and trying to make sure that your kids have all the avenues of learning available to them. So I just always, I'm not a super type A, ultra organized person. I'm definitely not. I'm a procrastinator, and
it's news to me.
So I never wanted to do my kids a disservice, and I was like, I don't think I want to. Also, I don't love teaching children. Did some Sunday school teaching as a teenager, and teaching kids is just not my thing. So, yeah.
There's potential in homeschooling if the parents are not on top of it, that there could be a lot of skipped lessons.
Listen, let me tell you, and that's the funny part, right? The ironic part is now I find myself homeschooling in Barbados. And yeah, it's true. My kids have lied to my face about what they did, and I stupidly trusted them because why would they lie to me? They very well would and could and did do they do lie. So yeah, I have to stay right on top of it, and that can be hard. It's just not my thing. Anyways, that was just a rabbit trail, I guess.
We'll do a parenting episode later on how to control your children and
we probably
keep them from lying to you.
I'm not sure we're very successful.
How to discipline them properly so that they always respect them.
Oh gosh, yeah. No.
But anyway, we have a very interesting story about how we came to be romantically interested in one another. I mean, you want to tell that story?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to kind of give the short version because I don't want it to go 100 years.
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes.
I know,
left.
we're already almost 7 minutes in. So basically, short version is we ended up going to the same Bible training school, a bunch of years apart. He actually graduated with my brother. So we did have some connection with our families. We went down sometimes to his parents' house for Thanksgiving because American Thanksgiving is different than Canadian Thanksgiving. So since the American school that they were going to had American break, we would just go down and that was our opportunity to see our brother during his school. So we did that for a couple of years while he was in school.
But she was 14 then, so I wasn't allowed to really be...
I was not 14.
I wasn't allowed to be interested in her then.
I was 17.
Oh, sorry.
Anyways, We were not interested. No, there was no interest. There is 7 years difference between Justin and I. And so, like, we knew of each other, but very different, like, friend groups and all of that, obviously. So, anyways, we did that, and then he actually went overseas to be a missionary in Lesotho.
Started in Lesotho.
And then a few years later, I ended up going to Bible school. And basically, long story short, he came home on furlough during my last semester of Bible school. And
I walked in the doors for this pastor's convention.
I'll let him tell this part.
And there was Andrew's little sister, who I had never dreamed of thinking in any romantic way. But for whatever reason, when I walked in the door, she was the first one that like greeted me that particular day. And it's like, she was this totally different person. She was all grown up, and it was like scales fell from my eyes, and I looked and I saw the most beautiful woman I had ever seen in my life. And
exaggerations.
I know, I'm serious. Up until then, I just thought of her as, Andrew's little sister or whatever. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh wow, she grew up while I was down in Africa.
So, anyways, that was the start of that.
So I secretly started messaging
We
her
started talking
on Facebook. Which,
okay,
that's a whole nother...
You don't have to be all...
Well, I'm doing that because...
about it.
Oh, yes, because, well...
No, it was a big deal. Okay, so we did mention that I grew up pretty ultra-conservative, and the denomination that we were both a part of was pretty ultra-conservative.
And you're supposed to ask permission.
So these things are very...
on Facebook.
It's true. Especially when you're still a student in Bible school, the girls and guys talking thing was extremely taboo. Yeah, and that was, the whole thing was just that Justin was like, he'd gotten out of a bad relationship, and so he's like, I don't know, and he just wanted to get to know me a little better before,
I wanted to see if she was
making any
worth
declarations,
pursuing,
and the way that the denomination kind of did it was like, oh no, you like, if you're gonna talk to a girl, now you have to be like an official couple, and like, they made a big deal about it, so Justin was like, I'm not ready to go there yet,
But
anyways.
we were allowed to have a long distance relationship. I went back to Africa.
Yeah.
And we were...
And we don't really have a lot of time to get into a lot of detail. And maybe we will more...
Maybe.
In another episode.
But we talked.
But basically, yeah. He went back to Africa. I went back to Canada because I finished then that semester. And we did. And we honestly didn't even... We did texts and stuff, but like... We didn't even talk even that much on the phone. Mostly
like once a week.
The time difference. There was like 7 hours time difference, and I worked a full-time job. I was working.
But we had Blackberries, we had Blackberry Messenger.
BBM.
That was the thing to have back then,
Oh my gosh, takes me back. But anyway,
But the short version is
we got married.
We talked long distance for a year, and we both decided during that year that we should probably get married. She was hot and.
Okay,
I was this fiery preacher that she loved, and
no, I think the funny part is like, I think sometimes if you know when you know, and if you know, and I think that was just it. Like for me, like I definitely felt like I heard from God that He was the one.
It took me a year to figure it out.
That probably sounds crazy to some people listening, and that's fine. But I knew pretty right away.
And before we ever had an official date.
Yeah, that's the funny part.
I came home basically to get married.
He knew he was coming home to get married because I had even bought my dress before you came home even, and we had set a date.
And our first official date, I asked her to marry me.
So, yeah, it was kind of a crazy story.
Crazy.
It is weird. Our first in-person...
And we had a chaperone with us on our date who took photos for us.
Our first in-person date, we
Shout out to Marianne. Great photos.
But anyways... we got engaged on our first in-person date, and 3 months later...
She said yes.
3 months later, we got married, and then 2 months after that, we went to Africa. But anyways, we've been married 12 years. That was the whole point of that story. And like I said, we will probably get into a little bit more of the details, if anyone's interested,
Yeah, tell us if you're interested.
Of the whole, what we call the courtship process.
Don't want to hear any more about it, let us know.
It was a whole thing. Anyways... But what we wanted to do actually was... Oh, and that the whole point of telling me this is, number one, because somebody wanted us to give our best marriage advice. And number two, I just thought it would help to give a little more background about us and a little bit of frame of reference for who we are and where we're coming from when we say certain things or
who we are
talk
and what
about
we
certain
do.
things.
Best marriage advice.
Do you want to go first?
We've been married for 12 years.
Okay, disclaimer here. We are in no way saying we have all the answers, and we are not telling anybody or pretending like our marriage is perfect. Although I do think it is pretty good. But I might be biased.
If there are small children around, you may want to ask them to leave the room.
No,
now.
you don't. This is completely...
I thought I was giving you my best advice.
This is a completely G-rated podcast.
Keeping mama happy. Isn't that the best advice?
No, that is not the best advice.
Oh, man. I got nothing.
Anyway, disclaimer. I do think our marriage is pretty good, but I'm not going to come on here and be like, oh, we've got a perfect marriage, we've got all the advice for you. I actually, most of the time, try really hard to keep marriage, my family might laugh, but I try really hard to keep marriage and parenting advice mostly to myself unless people ask. I try to be like...
somebody asked.
I try to be like, hey, look,
So,
if you want to know something, I'm happy to share, and I usually try really hard to be like, not push it on people. But if somebody asks, I'm happy to share what has worked for us. So,
Okay.
best marriage advice.
Give some.
Best marriage tip and advice. I thought you were going first.
Oh, you told me I couldn't say what I was going to say.
You gotta think of something else then.
So my advice as trying to keep the wife happy on a regular basis is I make coffee and I bring her coffee in the morning, and it doesn't always happen, but I'd say on a pretty regular basis I make the coffee and I bring it to her in the morning, and that keeps her happy.
Listen,
and everything else falls into place.
It does make me very happy. I think also the hard thing about that is that it's working well for us here and now. But the hard thing is to keep that up with once we get back home with schedules. Because I feel like I don't want to pretend like you've always done that.
When I was in Africa, I did it a lot.
You did, and that's what I'm saying. Like our schedules
when
right now
I don't have a real job.
Yeah, our schedules allow for it. And because I'm not getting up like at the crack of dawn to get the kids out of bed ready for school like I was.
She never gets up at the crack of dawn.
Not really the crack of dawn. But I did have to get the kids up for school back home and get lunches and get ready. So I was like rush at the beginning of the day. Whereas here, because we're homeschooling, I'm able to have slow mornings and I make the most of it. And I am not going to apologize for that.
Another piece of advice.
But it is good advice.
That I learned from my father. Are we supposed to take turns?
No, you go for it.
Another piece of advice that I learned from my father that I can't say I do, but I know. But it works for him. See, he washes the dishes. So I try, to do a fair share of the dishes.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've been
load the dishwasher and unload the dishwasher.
You've been pretty consistent with that.
Now that I have kids, I force them to do it sometimes, the unloading part.
But you've been good with it the last few months. I feel like.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at
it. A lot more.
That keeps her happy too.
But his dad does the dishes.
A lot.
All the time. Like, before you even have a chance to finish eating, his dad is up doing the dishes. And I love it.
He's been praised for it, even in foreign countries.
Yeah.
He was making the African pastor where we were in Lesotho feel guilty because he got up to wash dishes. And the next Sunday in church, the pastor's wife stood up and said, "This is the man who does the dishes." That was his
introduction.
His introduction that he became known for.
Okay, should I give mine?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that, especially the way that we grew up, you kind of get stuck in these like gender roles that are just very, very fixed. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's not always make for the happiest home atmosphere if you just always expect that and this is my time to rant, because in my house, my wife seems to think that it is a man's job to take out the garbage. Okay, so you know what? We don't need to be confined to these gender roles. If the garbage needs to be taken out,
confined to that role.
Just take it out and stick it out there. And instead, we got maggots crawling out.
Okay, get that.
Oh man,
nobody wants to hear about
just take it out.
Okay, I don't disagree. I don't disagree on the gender roles thing. I think you just have to do what people's giftings are. But you are just gifted with taking out the garbage.
Yes, I'm so gifted.
Just wanting you to keep doing it.
But the thing is, I think my marriage advice is people, maybe to a fault, I've always thought of myself as a very peaceful person. So they don't need to know. But the point is that I've always tried to be peaceful, and we need to do whatever needs to be done to make the house run. So whoever ends up doing it, then they end up doing it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay,
So,
your turn.
I think. Yeah, I will say he is very peaceable. Peaceful, peaceable. He's a peacemaker. It's probably why we've survived 12 years, honestly. Yeah, okay, so my best tip and advice, and I think I've recognized this more and more these last few years, I think, is to just fully support each other's dreams. I think
not all the dreams. Some of them are crazy.
Well, obviously, I have, not supported every single thing that you've had the inkling to do in your life. But I think, there's something to be said about making somebody feel seen and heard and like they matter. And I think that matters, in any kind of relationship. But in a marriage relationship, I think it's especially important. And I mean, that's probably why I'm here in Barbados, even though it might seem like it was a crazy thing to do. But I think it's important to just recognize that you're individuals and you all have, yes, you're married and you might have goals as a family, as a couple, but each individual also has their own dreams and desires and things that are important to them. And I think it's important to recognize that and to see them as a person, not just as somebody who's there with you. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something I think that is really important, because I think a lot of women, and maybe I'm not speaking for every woman, but I'm definitely not speaking for every woman, but I think there's, somebody who has been a stay-at-home mom now for 10 years, I think there's a lot of stay-at-home moms that might have had other dreams and ambitions, might have even already been educated, and maybe they love being a stay-at-home mom, and that's great. And I'm not speaking to that, because I think there's people who feel very fulfilled in that, and I think that's great. But I think that there's a lot of stay-at-home moms who maybe don't feel fulfilled in just being a stay-at-home mom. And when I say just, I don't mean that that's inconsequential. But that there's other things, other dreams, other desires that they want to do, things that they want to accomplish. Maybe there's more education. And yeah, I am speaking for myself, but I think that there's other people I'm speaking for too. And I think sometimes it can be easy to be in that role as a stay-at-home mom and feel totally unseen in a lot of ways. And so I think that's an important thing to do. And I think you've done a good job of that, at least in the recent years. I think the first few years of having kids were just honestly the first 5 years were pure survival mode, and we're just kind of surviving.
Well, I'll say it, and for both of us, there was just not any time to fulfill dreams.
It was just
we need
making it through a day, honestly. Sometimes
to have food on the table.
Yeah, I mean, he was working full time and I was home with the kids, and I mean, they were just so close in age that. I brought a newborn home, and I had a 1.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old along with the newborn, and he didn't have any time off. You went right back to work the day after we got home from the hospital. Mm-hmm. So it was just you're in the thick of it, and it was very chaotic. So, yeah, I think that's the supporting each other's dreams things. But also just obviously the big thing everyone talks about, with marriages and relationships is communication, which I feel like that that hardly needs to be said at this point, because I feel like everybody says it, but I think it's super important, and I think it's a big reason why we don't really argue much, because Justin's really big on communication. I'm not that great at communicating, but he's really good at forcing communication, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but you're just hey,
you're gonna listen to me.
No, we should talk about this, or just when you sense something's bothering me, I'm the type I'll be real grumpy and not want to talk about it, and he's no, what's wrong, and it's usually,
and I say it just like that too.
Not quite, but
well, I had another, I think it's a golden nugget piece of advice here, but I don't know if anybody else will feel that way. But I think kind of going back to the idea of roles and stuff, and I think that especially men, I can speak for men because I'm a man, and everybody's like me, so I can speak on behalf of all men, all of mankind. But I think a lot of guys, we have this idea of what a wife is supposed to be based on what our mother was in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really important that when you are interested in marriage, and there's somebody that you met that you are interested in, is not to put that on them, because they are a different person. They're going to be very different from your mom. And it's not because there's anything wrong with your mom, okay? But they also, just by nature of age and change and culture and all that stuff that changes with time, their view of the world is going to be different. And they're going to have different hopes, they're going to have different dreams. And so I think that, and like she said, being able to communicate that with each other, like before you get married, like what is your expectation of, like, are you, like for her, she should ask me, like, oh, are you expecting me to stay home and wash the dishes and do the laundry, or are you expecting me to go out and get a job? Like those kind of
I
conversations.
don't know if we actually had that conversation.
Well, because we just knew that you were going to be a stay-at-home.
Well, I mean, there was somewhat...
Because some of that was an expectation that was also, that we had.
I mean, some of that was from our upbringing. Well, we also...
Based on our
we
upbringing.
did talk, like, we felt like it was better for one of us.
At
to be
least
home
for
with
the
the
time
kids.
being, but...
But... yeah, there was definitely some expectation of the stay-at-home mom thing from the upbringing, and even not just the stay-at-home mom thing, but the like housekeeping thing, and like we're really getting into the nitty-gritty now.
Yeah, we actually had a discussion early on. I remember I was somehow put out because you
I
would
didn't
not
put your clothes
fold
away.
my clothes.
No, I folded them. I
and
just
put them away in my
I didn't
drawer
put
for
them away
me.
because this was literally like right when we got to Africa, so it was very early on.
Well, the funny thing is, my mom didn't even do that for me.
No,
well, she did when I was
Justin
a kid.
had, when we got to Africa, he had a housekeeper that he had previously when he was there by himself or with another guy.
And she would iron my underwear, so I had high expectations.
Iron all the clothes, put them away, and all the things. And I got there and did the laundry, and
she
I
hand
folded
washed
the clothes.
my clothes with a rock. I mean, I had pretty high expectations.
Anyways, I washed his clothes, I folded his clothes, and then I was like, oh, I'm not gonna put them away. You're a grown man. I've been putting my own clothes away since I was 2, pretty much. So I think that part, obviously, like I said, I'm not saying we had a perfect marriage.
Well, and
still had to work through normal
I mean, some of that
things.
stuff is just growing pains that's going to happen regardless. Even if you talk about it, it's not all going to be.
Well, and that's what I was going to say when you were
time.
even saying like to talk about beforehand, is that the other thing that is for sure with marriage is like the growth. You are growing together and you're growing as individuals, and then you have to translate that into growth as a couple, to grow together. Because some people, like, they'll do their own personal growth, and the other person maybe isn't also growing and changing as a person. And you're naturally going to grow and change as you mature, as you have life experiences, as you, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's important to know that something you might have had a dream about or an expectation about when you were 23 when you got married might be totally different when you're 33.
And I was going to say that too,
So,
like managing your expectations, because expectations, they can create a lot of disappointment in marriage. If I've expected that my wife is going to do, like that situation we just talked about. I had an expectation that she was going to fold and put my clothes away, and when it didn't happen, well, then I had this disappointment. So I think just manage that and
just don't be unrealistic.
and if you feel that that disappointment, then talk about it. Talk about why you're feeling the disappointment and what the expectation was, instead of holding it in and being resentful.
Also, believing the best about the other person.
Yeah.
You married them, you love them. They married you, so they must love you too. So don't jump to worst case scenarios. If they are silent or there's something wrong,
I feel attacked right now.
Don't just jump to immediately thinking that they're, I don't know, thinking bad thoughts or whatever, but you
or they're inherently evil.
Just assume the best about them.
They're always manipulating.
Assume that they are
evil motives.
Yeah, assume that they have good motives. Assume that they are, speaking well of you, unless you have reason to think otherwise. But I think it's important to really just believe the best about them. I actually learned that from my brother. But
that wise man.
yeah. Shout out to Andrew. He's probably not listening, but if he is, so, and also it's in the Bible. I think in 1 Corinthians 13, something about love.
Believes all things, hopes all things,
No,
beareth
I don't
all
know.
things.
Doesn't it say something about? I don't know. Anyways,
Keeps
might have
no
made that
record
up.
of wrong. I mean,
All those. It says lots of good things. But anyway, so I guess that's. So.
Thank you for joining us on the Inalienable Rights podcast. I don't have to say that every time.
I said that to you last time. No, but thank you for those who might be listening. And if you listen to everyone, we appreciate you. But yeah, no, it's fun and we love that you listen. And I always, honestly, I'm kind of weird about it, but I like to see the numbers go up. Like, oh look, we got more views. It's exciting. But
click like, subscribe.
Feel free to subscribe on YouTube.
Share with your friends.
We are happy to hear feedback. If there's something you're like, oh, I hate this, can you not do that? Let us know.
Keep that to yourself.
No, do let us know. We like feedback, and constructive criticism is okay too, as long as it's constructive. But yeah, we're happy to also. I know. I think Justin's been. Someone had messaged him about. They were listening to some of the medical school things and stuff too. So if there's something specifically you're looking for, medical school wise, or living in a Caribbean wise, or anything like that, shoot us a message. We are going to cover some of those things, but if you have something specific you want us to cover, it kind of can help to guide.
Yep.
When we talk about it, But yeah, we have some stuff coming up. I don't know when we're going to release this one, but we do have a couple interviews at some point coming up with other people, and so you can hear other people's stories
of life, faith, and medicine.
And so hopefully that'll be of interest to you as well. So we are going to close this off. We're actually heading off the island in 3 weeks, so we're trying to get some episodes recorded in advance, and we've just got so much going on, but looking forward to the next case. So thank you for listening. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Inalienable Rights podcast. You can find Justin and Alyssa on Instagram at Inalienable Rights Podcast and email them at inalienablerightspodcast@gmail.com with any questions or topics you want them to discuss in the future. See you on the other side of the wormhole.